The principles of indigenous education don't change no matter where you are in the world. We must respect that indigenous cultures have their own value, have their own strength, and we need to see how education should actually serve those indigenous cultures better. So I'll take an example. One of the things that educators are really thinking that what they need to get students to do is work collaboratively, work in teams, and in a problem-solving context to work in a group to get an outcome. That kind of thing is really the DNA of indigenous cultures. I'm Indo-African, as I've explained, and in my culture, I put my community, my family, before I put myself. And for our Māori and Pacifica learners, it's exactly the same thing for them. Yet, they come into schools, and those things that are part of their DNA aren't valued, and they aren't being successful. I ask, why is that the case? Shouldn't we be valuing that and encouraging them to bring out that collectivist notion to ensure that they're successful in our current education system? And if you look at Māori and Pacifica and what's causing them not to be successful, it's because the cookie cutter that we're putting in front of them is individualist. We want you to be competitive, we want to assess how you're doing and get an 80% pass, but yet what we should be doing is encouraging them to use the skills that they have from their collectivist home backgrounds, work together in a team, think of the other person, and that's what we should be assessing. How well do they work in groups? Because if you look at most businesses today, teamwork comes before individual work. And we need to value how those students are working in teams so that they could fit into the workplace quite comfortably. But we assess them individually, but expect them to work in teams so they could fit into the workplace team. There's something not quite right about that development of our learners in school and at tertiary institutions like ours. We keep putting the focus on the learners and we're saying that the learners need to meet our needs. How about us developing the capability of our teachers to understand that the learners are coming from a different place? It's not so much about the learner adapting to school, it's about the teaching adapting to the learning style of Māori and Pacifica learners. What do they bring that we can tap into, energize them so that they could come into our classrooms feeling that they belong, feeling that ownership, so that they could take not only ownership of their own learning, but the ownership of the learning of the ownership of their peers. So that when we get together with the teacher facilitating their learning so that they could have their stories told in a way that makes sense to them and the communities that they want to go back to. Education is about taking people from where they are to where they want to go. And if you look at any culture throughout the world, that journey is a combined journey by a whole range of people. And you know, it doesn't take one person to grow a village. And it's the same thing that my great hero Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela said. You educate somebody, you've created a nation. And a man who suffered for so long has taught us that. You and I are not suffering now. Why are we making our students suffer on their journey? Let's make it easy for them, let's make them enjoy it, and let's engage them on that journey.